Welcome back to Magnetic Women Monday. Today's conversation is one of the most important we have ever hosted because it touches the part of women's life that often stay hidden, unspoken, and misunderstood. Most women carry their stress in silence. Most women push through pain without asking for help. And most women don't realize that the symptoms they dismiss, like bloating, urgency, anxiety, and discomfort, are not random. They are messages from the gut brain system that has been whispering for years. So today, we are sitting down with someone who has spent 23 years understanding exactly why women feel this way. Dr. Elena, IBS specialist, and one of the few experts who looks at the gut not as an organ but as a story of your emotion, your stress, your identity, and your life. This conversation is going to be grounding, eye-opening, and honestly healing. If you are a woman who has ever felt unseen in your symptoms, if you have ever been told it's just a stress, and if you have ever believed you had to live with this forever, then today's episode is for you. So let's begin. Welcome to Magnetic Women Monday, Dr. Elena. I am so genuinely happy to have you here.
Thank you for inviting me.
You're most welcome because your work reaches a part of women's life that often stay hidden. The emotional, the physical experiences of living with the gut symptoms that can feel really like overwhelming, isolating, and invisible. So I know that this conversation is much needed. And today we are going to go really deep into what you are doing and then how this can impact. And it's actually impacting the people on the daily basis. So let's begin. So,
Excellent.
yeah, so before we go into the science and tools, I would love to begin with you. You spent nearly like 2 decades in hospital medicine. Was there a moment or experience that made you realize that the traditional approach wasn't enough, that something deeper was being missed?
Yeah, it's not just there was a specific moment. I think it was a collection of moments as you go along. And I
Mhm.
think it's been, I think since COVID, a lot of things have changed in medicine and there's a lot of pressure on the national system. And we basically have a lot of backlog. So there's a lot of frustration from the patients as well. But also from the doctor's perspective, I think is hard as well because you end up getting a lot of the frustration and it's not directed at you, it's more about the system problems, which that was one aspect where I found quite difficult navigating.
Mhm.
But also, I just felt also with specific chronic conditions that, such as irritable bowel syndrome, we end up neglecting the psychological impact that it has on a lot of patients. And especially for irritable bowel syndrome, a lot of the things in the hospital is we cannot offer a lot of the treatments, so they just discharge back to their GP most of the time,
Mhm.
which again, the GPs have waiting lists and they have their own issues with time management and clinic consultations. And you end up basically having a people that are struggling significantly with no support. And I think they end up getting fragmented care, which is not ideal.
Mhm.
So that didn't really sit very well with me because, you go into medicine wanting to help people, but also the fact that I didn't know significantly the psychological impact until I took some time off and studied a little bit more about it, how important it is to provide this service.
Right. Okay. So thank you for sharing that so openly because this shows that how deeply you cared about the patient. You just didn't care about the numbers. You wanted to, go deeper into them and see what's actually going wrong.
Yeah, for me, it's more about the quality of care, is more about giving the right care rather than, I do appreciate there's a huge waiting list, but I do like listening to people's stories and trying to help them out in the best way I can. But having 10 minutes or 15 minutes is not enough to do that.
Right.
And I don't want to be abandoning people at the worst.
Right, right. So as you shifted into more holistic and human-centered lens, what pattern did you personally begin to notice in the women who came to you?
So with irritable bowel syndrome, there's a lot of emotions that go through. There's obviously the anger, frustration part of having a chronic condition and how that affects you.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of shame and stigma as well, which again, the self-blame, the internalized stigma, people won't believe you and all that stuff, it can affect them as well. And I think all these emotions can end up in people having behaviors which basically they're avoiding social situations. They end up being quite isolated. It affects significantly the quality of life, and it can be. It's not just a gut disorder; it's a gut-brain interaction disorder. So I think we focus too much on the gut sometimes, but we ignore the part of the brain that plays into it and the emotional aspect that the condition has.
Right. Yeah, definitely. I think most of the time we ignore this part, that it is actually psychologically, there is some impact that is very much connected to our guts. Yes. So we often hear that gut symptom in the clinical term, for example, bloating, urgency, or discomfort. But there is something much deeper that doesn't show up in any of the early tests. So, what does IBS take away from someone that people don't see?
Mm-hmm. So a lot of the irritable bowel syndrome patients will not volunteer they have the condition sometimes because of embarrassment, because I think with a lot of the bowel conditions, there's this, it's associated with this either humorous aspect where we make fun of someone that has bowel problems,
Right.
in comedies and things like that,
Mhm.
or it's this shame and embarrassment that they get and the stigma that they get. So um, how that manifests, I think, is basically, as we said, it impacts significantly the quality of life, with people avoiding to go to work sometimes because the corporate world might not provide enough toilets, or they're
Yes.
embarrassed to say their employers that they have this problem. They avoid traveling. Travel is a major issue sometimes. They
Mhm.
you they developed what we call toilet anxiety. So they always want to know exactly where the toilets are. So it impacts significantly, and not just the impact is not just work; it's also the psychological. It can be financial if they're not able to work. It can be also with the relationships, because obviously it can impact intimacy, can impact, people going out, social situations. It's a huge impact it has. And I think one of the studies, it showed that it's equivalent, the quality of life of an IBS patient, to someone that has end-stage renal disease, which means people are on dialysis.
Okay.
Even though there's not a huge structural problem, the emotional and all these other symptoms, it can affect significantly the quality of life of someone that has IBS.
Oh, okay.
And I guess to put it in perspective, I'm sure that you probably had a gastroenteritis at some point where, you had an infection where you ended up going to the toilet quite a lot and things. And
Yes.
I'm pretty sure if you put yourself in that situation, you can understand what impact it had at the time. But that was probably a day or two, and then it went away. Can you imagine
Right.
having that for 20 years?
Oh,
So
wow.
that is the impact that, and I think this is what people don't understand. They only see like what the person that has IBS shows them. yeah, so there's a lot of hidden problems.
Problems. Yeah, I never thought about these perspective as well. Yes, definitely. Yeah, when we had any stomach infection, we keep going there. We want to make sure that like toilet is occupied just for me. Nobody's going. Yeah, I think so many people can relate right now that this is something that needs to be acknowledged
Yeah,
while
exactly.
while we are going through the treatments. And then
Mm.
this knowledge must be discussed openly so that people around them and like the world in general should know that if somebody is going through this problem, these are the things that they have to face on a daily basis. So even in the corporate world, like if the boss understand that, that would be a big help for the person who is suffering
Mm.
from this. So
Yeah, and it's a very common condition. So 1 in 10 will have that. So even if you don't experience it, you probably know someone that has the problem. So it's important to raise the awareness about this, because a lot of people think they're on their own and it's not that common and they isolate themselves, but actually it's a very, very common problem.
very common problem. Oh, yeah, good to know that 1 out of 10 people are suffering this.
Mm,
Okay, thank you for sharing.
that's
So,
okay.
now I would love to give everyone watching something grounding and empowering, a real understanding of what's happening inside the body. So, can
Hmm.
you explain in simple everyday language how stress or emotion can turn into a physical gut symptom?
So the way to explain it, the way I explain it, which I use metaphors. So I use the plumbing system, an alarm system, and obviously your control system. So if we think like in a house situation that you have your plumbing, you have an alarm, and you've got the control station. So the plumbing is your gut, the alarm system is your nervous system, and the control system is your brain. So at some point in your life, the problem might have started with a problem in the plumbing, as we said, an infection, which has affected the sensors for the alarm. So within the system. So anything that happens within the plumbing system
Mhm.
triggers the alarm, and
Okay.
that alarm then triggers a response to the control center, where the control center then sends back a reaction. So you can end up having this vicious circle of constant hyper reactivity of the alarm system and the actual two systems like interacting together. So yeah, so it's a constant communication that has gone wrong, and is constant alarm that keeps keeping the system
Making system
agitated.
active. Yeah.
Mm,
Okay. That's a very good and easy way to understand that's what's going on at.
yeah,
Hmm.
yeah. I hope that makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah, it does. It does. Like it makes sense for the person who doesn't know anything about it. So it's just easier to,
Yeah.
just remember as
Yeah.
yeah. So I really find it very fascinating and relatable for, I think many people can relate as well that uh the high performing and most responsible and emotionally strong women often have the most severe gut symptoms. Why is that?
So obviously stress is part of it. So high performers obviously have a lot of stress. Some aspects of the personality can affect it as well. So we do know perfectionism, it can exacerbate the problem.
Oh,
And also, yeah, and also there is another personality trait that some people might have, which is called alexithymia, which basically means that you can't process or label your emotions.
mm-hmm.
So again, that some people have that. So from studies, we know that the alexithymia is more prominent in people that have IBS. So I think it's a combination of stress, possibly personality traits that contribute to the problem, but also, yeah, the emotional aspect of um, how you process things as well.
Okay. So So if I am running behind being perfect, so I'm stressing myself out, and that stress caused the gut issues.
So
Wow.
yes, so yeah, so when you're stressed, there's a physiological response because some amount of stress can be beneficial to some people, but a chronic stress
Mm-hmm.
it can be obviously damaging for a lot of things. So when you have stress, the one of the physiological conditions that happen, which is out of your control, is that the blood is diverted from your gut to your muscles because we're ready like to fight or flight. So you're ready to flight. So you're ready to go. So that diversion of the blood causes the digestion is compromised. So having that as a chronic problem, it exacerbates things. But also what chronic stress does as well, you're producing a lot of hormones, which in turn have an effect on your gut, so
Mm-hmm.
you can end up having this vicious circle of chronic problem.
Okay, so the only way to break it is do something like meditation or maybe divert or like not going too much into
So for the stress part of it, yeah, there's different ways of dealing with it. This could be the breathing techniques. It could be relaxation, different types of relaxation, meditation, and hypnotherapy. So yeah, there's different aspects that you can address with that. But I think the important thing is people understand and they're aware that stress does play part of it. It doesn't explain all of the condition, but it does play a part of it in maintaining it. So I think one of the most important things is managing your stress.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So let's talk a little bit about food fear. So there is
Yeah.
also so much information online about diet, and sometimes it can feel like really overwhelming. It feels overwhelming to me. I'm honestly telling you. So in your experience, can elimination diets sometime increase fear around food?
Yeah, so let's talk about the elimination diet for a minute. So the specific diet for IBS that has a lot of evidence behind it is called low FODMAP diet. So this is a diet that it starts very restrictive, and basically FODMAPs are sugar molecules that coexist in a lot of food products. And these sugars are not digested properly in the gut. So they end up being fermented.
Mm-hmm.
So they can produce gas, or they can stimulate the gut, so they can have like a laxative effect. And because we do know part of the problem with IBS is that there's that hypersensitivity. We know when we talked about the senses are quite sensitive.
Mm-hmm.
Anything that stretches or makes the gut move, it can be interpreted as pain. So
Right.
by the theory behind the elimination diet is to identify your triggers potentially, which are these sugar molecules, and reduce them, and then reintroduce them slowly and personalize your approach. So it has a 3-stage approach.
Okay.
However, um, the problem with this is that it has to be a dietitian-led diet, or with the support of someone that is trained in this diet, because it's a very difficult diet to follow, first of all.
Okay.
And it can be overwhelming, and a lot of people just quit straight away. But also what can end up happening is a lot of people restrict significant amount of sugar, carbohydrates and things, and
Right.
they never introduce them to see, actually, is this the problem? So then that can end up with someone having a restricted food pattern, and it can end up affecting them significantly. Now, the other problem with diets is, as you said, there's a lot of them around, and I think we are starting to get a lot of new information coming through. For example, there's a recent study now that Mediterranean diet probably is beneficial for IBS, but for a specific type of IBS. So I think a lot more evidence will come through as we go along. But I think for me, it's important that if you're going to go for a restricted diet, to have a dietitian supervising it. If not, it can be overwhelming just following random advice from the internet. But I think the importance of all this is that with psychological therapies, which is what I offer, is that you don't really go into the diet aspect that much. So you don't restrict things. So you change more about you down-regulate the system, the alarm system, basically.
Okay.
If that makes sense.
Yes, it does. So are there any like few foods that you can suggest that's good for our gut? It's just like we can consume it on a daily basis and it's just feel better.
I think what we starting to know more is that variety of food products is good. So the Mediterranean diet has a lot of vegetables, nuts, and things like that, but also fiber. But with fiber, the amount of fiber and the type of fiber is significant in IBS. So for different types of IBS, it can be helpful, but you need to know and titrate it slowly. So again, that can be done with a dietitian or your general practitioner. But from I think we're starting to get a little bit more information about what it's useful. The aspect of diet is very difficult because it's not just what you eat. I think it's how you eat as well, because there's the emotion that comes with eating. It's you being mindful. A lot of people will just eat very fast at work. Some people don't enjoy their food. So I think there's a lot of different aspects around food. It's not just the type of food you eat.
Just not the type. Okay. For women who feel exhausted from trial and error and just want to feel safe in their body again, could you walk us through your gut-brain metamorphosis approach in a simple term?
So yeah, so first of all, I do a assessment where I want to make sure, obviously, that we identify what it is that triggers symptoms. So, and this is a collaborative approach where I actually have to find out a little bit more information.
Okay.
What we do know is like there's a trigger sometimes that generates either an emotion or an action. And then this is where the cognitive behavior therapy techniques come along, because all of those can affect each other. So we identify what your patterns are, and then we set up goals of what we're going to manage. And then I personalize the treatment. So I offer a specific advice on what we need to do. And then we go on, and each time we monitor things and introduce new techniques on how to deal with things. So my approach is online, personalized, and obviously this is all evidence-based. And I offer cognitive behavior techniques, mindfulness, and gut-directed hypnotherapy.
Okay. So sometimes it's really helpful for women to stay encouraged if they know what their progress look like. So when healing begins, what usually shift first? Any symptoms on emotional pattern or something that you notice?
Yeah, so this is where it's personalized, because not everyone is the same, and no approach, one approach might not be suitable for the other person. But I think the important things is the first thing is the understanding of what's going on in your body, and the fact that it's not just your gut, it's also what else is happening with you that can perpetuate the problem. So understanding that has a huge impact, I think, because people understand they're validated. This is a condition that is not just all in your head or it's just stress. So I think that usually is a light bulb moment where people understand it, and then having the skills to learn how to cope with it. It can start, I think, confidence in a lot of people starts to come back, because I think there's a lot of problems with IBS and having low confidence. And I think confidence is one of the things that I think starts coming back quite early on once they start seeing the improvement.
Okay. Oh, yeah. Definitely. If I'm just going through some issue and then I feel like little bit of recovery, even if it's 1%, I'll be like, oh wow, now I want to go to the doctor again. Now I want to see that, oh wow, what's next? What's next? So yeah,
Yeah.
that really builds up our confidence for sure.
And it's a process. It's not a quick fix. It's a
Yes.
process, and it's you're learning new skills that you can take moving forwards. And this is, as I say again, this is why it's good to have a personalized approach, because you need to have someone, as I say, all these techniques might not be suitable for everyone, and it's just
Right.
trying to it's a collaboration that, you give me feedback, I change what I do and make sure that what we offer you is what actually works for you.
Mm-hmm. Yes. So if you're open to it, I would love to share something people can actually feel in their body right now. So could you guide us through a short, few seconds grounding or nervous system calming practice with everyone?
So I think first of all is when I think acknowledging what we call early warning signs. So what are the first signs that you get when you're stressed? So if you think of a stressful situation, if you close your eyes and think what is happening in my body at that stressful situation, for me, I can feel like a huge weight on my shoulders. For others, might be your chest might be tight. And so that is an indication that you're under stress. So addressing stress is easy by incorporating breathing techniques. So I think once you first of all acknowledge what are you getting physically, that is your early warning sign to say to yourself, I need to stop now and I need to relax a bit. Because relaxation is an active process. So as I say, so for me, it's the shoulders. So I feel that, oh God, I acknowledge now I'm quite stressed. So what you need to do at that point is acknowledge. So stop for a minute, acknowledge it, and then focus on your breathing. And there's different breathing techniques that you can do. So, but the important thing for IBS is the diaphragmatic breathing. So if you
Okay.
put one hand on your chest and one on your belly, usually when we're stressed, we breathe too much
Right.
here, because again, is your body is preparing you for fight or flight. So your
Mhm.
breathing is diverting again the oxygenated blood to your heart. So to slow it down, because this is the only thing that you can consciously do when you're stressed, is make sure that when you are stressed, you can feel your chest going up and down like this when you're breathing. But actually, what you need to do is push your belly out and feel that when you're breathing in, that air goes into your belly,
Okay.
and that can help reset it. And by having that, by having your out breath be longer than your in breath, that
Okay.
can help as well. Yeah, because it activates the rest and digest system, not the fight or flight.
Okay. What I have seen, like many videos, they say like block breathing is like 1, 2, 3, 4 in, and then hold for 1, 2, 3, 4, and then
Yeah,
1, 2, 3, 4.
that's another way. So that's the box breathing. So that's so yeah, so you imagine like there's a box. So you breathe in for 4, so 1, 2, 3, 4, then you hold it for 4, and then you exhale for 4, and then you hold it for 4. So then you can visualize yourself as doing that basically. And it's something that it easy for people to visualize and do as well. So that's another one to deal with stress.
But then you mentioned that the out one should be more than what you are inhaling. So what
Yeah.
will that look like?
So you can inhale for 4, and
Mm-hmm.
then you can exhale for 6 or 8.
Okay. So very
Yeah.
slow exhaling. How does
Yeah.
it impact
Yeah.
our body?
So that activates the parasympathetic nervous system. So the fight or flight is an automatic response, as we said, and it's usually your sympathetic nervous system. So it's 2 parts, which is it puts on the accelerator is the fight or flight. That's on. When your breathing changes, it activates the rest and digest system, the parasympathetic system. So then that can get activated, and then that can help with the digestion and things like that.
Oh, okay. That's good to know.
So yeah, the only thing that's under your control is your breathing. So yeah, by targeting the breathing, that can help.
Okay. Thank you for sharing that.
That's okay.
Yeah. So for every woman who has been told it's just a stress, there's nothing more to it, and just live with it. So what is the truth you want her to hear today?
So first of all, it's not just stress, and it's a very common problem. And even if you see it as it's the worst case scenario and there's no way out or anything, there are treatments that can help.
Right.
With the right support and with the right treatments, you can get out of a situation where you feel stuck. But I think the important part is having your IBS being diagnosed by a medical professional and not really self-diagnosing yourself, because there's a lot of symptoms that can coincide with other diseases. And I think it's important that you don't neglect things, and things are looked after properly and you're given the right diagnosis.
Oh, okay. So thank you so much for all your time and energy and
It's
the
okay.
knowledge that you shared with us. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Thank you, Dr. Elena. Today, you didn't just talk about the gut. You talked about what it feels like to be a woman navigating life, emotions, stress, and still trying to function while your body is screaming for help. What you shared today matters because thousands of women watching this have lived in silence, in confusion, in shame, and for the first time, they understand that it's not in their head. It's not just a stress, and they are not alone. Your metaphor, your guidance, your compassion, and your clarity, it has genuinely shifted the way we see gut and brain connection. And if you're watching right now, remember, your body is not betraying you. It's communicating with you. And with the right support, right tools, and right understanding, healing begins. So take a deep breath. Take care of your gut. Take care of yourself. And until next time, stay magnified.